Can man be good without God? Before you answer that question too quickly, you should see how the question is answered by leftists when they come into contact with an opponent that knows his stuff. Welcome to the show. My name is Reed Huberman. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. On the show, as I try to do every week, I will give Christian arguments to current events, cultural issues, because I believe we are living in an unparalleled age of bad ideas. And the cure for bad ideas are good ideas, and the best ideas are found in Scripture. So I'm going to give reasonable, rational arguments for the Christian faith, especially as it pertains to things going on in the culture. Before I do that, I want to make sure that you know that today's show is sponsored by our friends over at Sweet and Savory. If you're looking for an online or in-person class experience that can help you learn how to cook the most amazing food, then you need to check out our friends over at Sweet and Savory. Not only will they teach you to make some great, amazing food, but also it will be done in an atmosphere that is incredibly fun and entertaining for you and your family. So like I said, even if you're not in the classroom area, you can go online and see all of the many, many ways that you can learn to cook great food for you in your house every single evening. Now, in order to do that and see everything they have to offer, you need to go to sweetandsavoryclassroom.com, where you can find a list of their upcoming classes and all of their online catalog of great material. And when you check out, make sure to use the promo code IndieThinker for a discount on your order and to let them know that we sent you. A recent clip of popular leftist commentator Sam Seder went viral for all the wrong reasons for Sam's case, as he took on a Christian YouTuber armed with the moral argument for God's existence. Check it out.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
Now already this debate is not going well for Sam because he doesn't seem to actually know what his worldview is. So the one thing that he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt is he knows that Christians just cannot be allowed to implement their morality on society. They can't shove that down everybody's throat. But of course, Sam is perfectly willing to shove his morality down the throat of everybody else. This is a reminder to us of a refrain I say on the show very often. Everybody's worshiping something. Everybody has their Bible open. It's just a question of who gets to say that their Bible or their morality is actually useful to the society. So this is a question of authority. Sam thinks his view is authoritative, or else he wouldn't fight for it, and Christians think theirs is. The only question is, well, which one is? And this is an important argument. This is an important thing to decide. Now, let me first say that the one thing that I find funny about this question of authority and who gets to say is that the atheists who have the most moral indignation, I mean, even more than any Christian that you've ever met, no matter how fundamentalist or not, they are the ones who come into the comments section and immediately when they're asked about the moral argument, they're the ones who make the schmuck argument, I call it, and say that if you need a sky daddy, if you need to believe in sky fairies in order to be a good person, then you're not a good person. Well, of course, I call this the schmuck argument because just in one comment, you already proved to us that you're not a good person if you make that kind of argument, because bigots who make fun of people for their religion aren't really good people at the end of the day. So thanks for proving the point, atheists. You've done a great job yet again. But that just sidesteps the major point, which is just this: who gets to say? Let me give you an analogy. Maybe you're familiar with this picture of a little starving African child, I believe a Somalian boy, and a vulture in the background who's about to pounce on this child who is about to die of starvation. This picture was taken by Kevin Carter, and 4 months after he won the Pulitzer Prize for taking this picture, he committed suicide. I think he has come out and said, at least maybe in writings or something, that he was condemned because of this picture that made him famous because he didn't do anything to actually stop and help the boy. So I want to give an anecdote real quick. I don't know if this is entirely true of this scenario, but let's just say that it is, for the sake of argument. So let's just say you have one of two choices to make. You can put your camera down and you can go save that child before that vulture pounces on him. Or you can take that picture and the vulture will have his way with the boy, but the picture will go around the world and you get to create awareness for millions of people about what's going on with starving children in Africa, and millions of dollars will pour into that country and will be responsible for saving tons of lives as a result of that one picture. So what do you do in that situation? And the question is, who's to say? So the point is that without a transcendent bedrock for moral principles, we all go back to our arbitrary feelings on the matter. So we have subjective morality, a belief that your own personal preferences get to dictate what is good, rather than the Christian perspective, which is objective morality exists, which means that regardless of your background, your religion, your culture, or your personal preferences, regardless of any of that, something can be fully, completely wrong because human beings have intrinsic value. And I think we all have to agree that objective morality exists, because there is no scenario by which a child being abused is that okay. There's no way that that is okay, regardless of your personal feelings on the matter. So Eliezer again is right. When you do not have a place to root your morality in a transcendent being like God, all you have is subjective morality. Let me define this one other way with C.S. Lewis and Mere Christianity. He said that whenever you say that a line is crooked, you're already automatically implying that there is a straight line. Well, what is the straight line exactly? So if you can judge that a line is crooked, you're judging based upon the line that is straight. Well, where does the straight line come from? When atheists are asked this question, here's what they often say. Well, we know that that which is immoral is that which causes harm. But of course, that doesn't do anything to actually justify their point. Well, who says what harm is? How do we define what harm actually is? And of course, when asked that, they will come back and say something typically like this. And this is pretty steel man for their position. I've talked with them to the point where nausea sets in, and this is typically what they will say. They will say anything that doesn't come from consent causes harm. Now, of course, that is totally morally reprehensible, because there is all sorts of things that you could argue people consented to that are bad. Let's talk about the OF models that go around on social media and sleep with everything under the sun in order to score high numbers for their body count. Let's talk about animated snuff P word, which I think almost everybody should agree with the fact that that is bad. And if you don't know what snuff P word is, don't look it up, because that would be bad. But maybe just a more basic example. So the 80-year-old uncle marrying his 18-year-old niece, which is supposedly the age of consent, right? Which, not to mention the fact that we don't really even have anything but an arbitrary standard as to what consent actually is. But let's just say the 80-year-old uncle marries the 18-year-old niece. Are you really going to tell me that that's morally permissible and okay? So the point is this, is that when the atheist is forced to try to provide a moral framework to lead us to rational, objective moral truths, they cannot. And this is because rational, objective moral truth need to be grounded in God. And we'll dig into this a little bit more as we hear this next clip.
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean, it would be
morally right under your view.
Not morally right. No.
Now, I love this here. Sam appeals to the laws of America, oddly, in order to talk about how he is a moral person. But then, of course, holes are poked into this immediately, because the laws of a nation have to be fueled by something outside of it that transcend those laws, or else what would keep you from being a member of the Third Reich in World War II and saying, hey, it's a public good to have gas chambers, right? The laws of a society do not dictate morality, something underneath it does. And I've got news for you. Guess what animates the moral precepts, the moral sentiments of every single Westerner in the world? whether you like it or not, it's Christianity, because Christianity fueled Western civilization. So by that, I mean to ask this question: how do you know you're a good person? If you're an atheist and you say you're a good person, how do you know that your understanding of right and wrong, which I agree you can reason through, but how do you know that your reason hasn't been tempered by Christian influence and by Christian values and Christian virtues that have been passed down to you, that are so interwoven into the fabric of the jurisprudence of America and our society, such that you really can't pull them apart and discern whether or not it's you or it's the Bible that helped you come to an understanding of these things that, again, have been snowballing for thousands of years into the present. How do you know, in other words, that if you grew up in the Middle East somewhere, Afghanistan, let's say, that you wouldn't be the very first person to shove your wife in a burqa or to shove an LGBTQ person off a roof? And if you're going to be an honest, intellectually honest person anyway, you're going to have to say, well, I don't know that, because I can't really take that argument from silence and really make it make sense. All I can say is what is available to me, which is morality in Western civilization has been largely predicated upon Christian values. So at the very least, whether I like Christianity or believe it or not, I am a byproduct of Christian morality. And as a result of that, we have created a more just society. As John Adams said, that our Constitution is made for a moral and religious people, and it is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Now, what John Adams is saying here absolutely flies in the face of what Sam just said, because what he's trying to say is this, is that all of the freedoms that we have in our Constitution have to be undergirded by the moral principles of Christianity in order for them to work, because you will have chaos if all you have is freedom and you don't have the limiting principle of morality. So the truth is that you can't understand your life without that limiting principle constantly being an influence and an impact in your life. But furthermore, goodness is grounded in something much deeper than just your pure reason, and something that I think you'll see on display in this next clip.
I believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates, you have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem, I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
So I hope you realize how quickly deflection has to come into the debate in order for the atheist to hold his own with a Christian when it comes to the moral framework. So he has to say, so you obviously have a problem with gay people, huh? So the reason he's doing that is because atheism does not have grounding for the kind of claims that Sam is trying to make. Again, if you're an honest atheist, you would have to say that Christianity is beneficial for the moral framework of a society, and that as far as naturalism is concerned, as far as secular humanism is concerned, it really doesn't have access to the kind of moral claims that we want to try to make. We need something else outside of it. And this is something that Dawkins himself says. He said, the universe that we observe has precisely the properties that we would expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pitiless indifference. So right there, Dawkins doesn't understand how much of a favor he did to Christians, because he essentially asserts something that all philosophers really know, that without intelligence, you cannot have good and evil, because morality is a byproduct of being, because rationality is necessary for morality, and rationality doesn't happen without being. So in other words, if there is going to be morality, it must be grounded in a being like God, a rational being that is non-contingent, that sits outside of the human. Well, who else could truly create that kind of morality except for God? But the problem that atheists run into, like Sam Seder, is that the natural selection of the naturalist or the humanist, or really any non-theist who believes that human beings came through a mechanical process like natural selection, they must needs then believe that therefore that mechanical processes only create mechanical things. They don't create rational, meaning-seeking, intelligent beings who are desiring to create moral frameworks. No. What does natural selection create? It creates automatons. It creates accidents. And it doesn't create objective, rational morality, in other words. So you have to have a a being like God in order to truly achieve objective morality. Now, let me be really clear throughout all of this. If you're an atheist, it doesn't mean that you're going to go around murdering puppies and only Christians do good stuff. It's just that you do not have justification for your belief that morality can be grounded purely from your worldview. It has to be grounded in something bigger, something transcendent, something that is outside of yourself. And the only being that fits in that category is God. And besides, I would argue one further thing, that whatever goodness you possess, whether you turn and give God praise for it or not, is simply because you are made in God's image. You are made with the capacity for great good. You're made with the capacity to reason. You're made with the capacity to look at creation and the created order and think to yourself, there's something sacred and holy about this. And it's for that reason that you, with all of your claims of goodness, must stop and worship and give thanks to the one who actually gave you the capacity for that goodness, whether you like it or not. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out some of our sponsors down below in the description. And if this show was beneficial to you, you can access ebooks, audiobooks, movies, and so much more by becoming a member of Indie Thinker by going to indiethinker.org/support. But most importantly, go with God.